Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Upgrading Hurricane Evacuations, Smarter Solutions for Safer Communities. Today we'll have two speakers, myself, John Abrazazi, Director of Government Sales here at Genesis, also Adam Fuchs, who's our Senior Solution Engineer here at Genesis. Today we're going to go over a few things, talk a little bit about Genesis Protect and LRAD, hurricane evacuation challenges and their impacts, make some recommendations, as well as do a demonstration of our evac and alert platform, our traffic AI platform, and our citizen-facing Genesis Protect site. So Genesis is the global provider of protective communications. So today we support over 50 million citizens, as well as we have installations in over 100 countries. So the Genesis Protect ecosystem really began in 2019, and since then we've had rapid growth based on the interest in our unique approach for pre-planning, simulation, alerting, and acoustics. So, and you can kind of see right here, really quickly going from, 2019 to the 50 million we have today. So some of the challenges we're going to discuss today is confusing evacuation zones, disconnected collaboration, difficulty reaching an entire affected population, and massive traffic congestion. The first challenge is going to be the confusing evacuation zones. And really this stems from them being storm surge evacuation zones, like they're large single-use tools, and they do not lack any, provide any critical information. So the impacts of this is, on the evacuations and managing traffic, on the alerting, on your resources, on your public platforms, and they're not useful in other emergencies. The answer, or at least our recommendation, is hyper-precise flexible zones. As you can kind of see in the screen right here, this is our methodology that we provide via our evac platform. Much more manageable zones based by over 30 different parameters. And also with our in-house GIS, we also can work with your GIS and your zones and what you currently have going on. But these are a lot more manageable, typically smaller than what your GIS person may create, like, smaller than a municipality boundary or something. And you can make a zone out of multiple of these zones. You can also customize and kind of cut one of these zones in half or free form and kind of things to kind of make the zones what they need to be. So it's easier to kind of do sequential evacuations versus all of a barrier island or, all the mainland. You can kind of get a bit more granular than that. It also makes the public portals more intuitive because these zones are smaller, you can put a lot more useful information in there. Like within our system, where the shelters are, where the sandbag stations are, where your road closures are, any kind of aid stations and things like that, like the, critical facilities, agencies that are there to help you, getting all that information so a citizen can really easily, just by having these zones being more hyper precise, it gives you that ability to kind of help on the pre-planning as well as on the public facing side. The next challenge is collaboration. Due to hurricane size, there's a lot of complexity. Typically, you've got multiple agencies working together, lots of volunteers involved as well, and typically there's a lot of siloed communication. Everyone using their own type of app or text groups or emails or radio frequencies. It's sometimes hard to get people together. The impacts to that is going to be delayed communication, delayed decision making, and delayed resources. So our solution to this is going to be twofold. How Genesis helps with this is with our evac platform, we actually give you a single pane of glass. So whether you're in the EOC, whether you're on the ground, everyone can look at the same thing and make decisions regardless of where they're at. Also run simulations on scene or in the EOC. The other part of this is with a real-time collaboration tool like our Connect platform, which allows you not only to have all of your people in a system, but any of those mutual aid agencies that are coming to help you, other communities, the volunteers, you can put them in the system instantaneously. And then once the incident's over, you can archive everything and remove them from your system without having to call a vendor and get more licenses for a product. Your next challenge is going to be directing the public. So, the challenge is going to be reaching a massive dispersed population, multiple language and technology barriers, possible low opt-in rates, as well as, in Florida, for example, there's a high tourist population, a lot of visitors in the area. Also, people not responding to life-saving information because it's not easy to find. Our recommendation is going to be a multi-channel communications. So phones, displays, video broadcasting via long-range speakers to help people who don't have service or power or just not enrolled in your system. That can be via permanently installed systems. We have trailers that can be brought in that are like self-contained, solar battery backup satellite, or more portable units that officers can just go pull on the side of the road or mount to their vehicles and put out the information. Providing self-service channels so that people can be, more relying on that versus on the media for critical information. And that kind of and then intuitive public platforms that display useful information like shelters, sandbag stations, roadblocks, etc. And then also to use collaboration tools to kind of connect with different leaders so that they can also spread that life-saving information. The next challenge is going to be traffic congestion. The cause is hurricanes typically have a large affected area, and with that, it takes a lot of resources and preparation. So, when a zone is told to evacuate, it can create a long evacuation time and create traffic issues. Just recently, my family was evacuating from the West Coast, and from what would have been a 2-hour drive, took almost a day. And that's just kind of part of the course. What we recommend is AI modeling. Genesis provides this near real-time traffic modeling to visualize events ahead of time, plan for your what if scenarios, or test things out in real time. You can test out opening the shoulder or test out contraflow and see how that's going to work. You can use this to improve evacuations by doing it sequentially versus all at once, or opening up different roads or closing roads. And then again, having this like as a SaaS system, so everyone can use it and use it as a collaboration tool to kind of make sure that everyone's on par with that decision. So we talked about a lot of these solutions, high level of what Genesis offers. So we have the Genesis Alert tool, which is our mass notification, which is kind of like the glue that holds everything together. You can use this through integrations with other hardware software, or you can just go through a mobile app or a web portal, send out notifications across every modality. We have our evac and pre-planning solution, which pairs with the alert tool to give you that pre-planning solution, some simulations, some generating of plans for people, especially whenever there's no internet service. They can print out paper plans and then have access to that. The Genesis Acoustics, which are going to be permanently installed speakers within your community that can play the same message that would come out of your mass notification system. and they're very redundant with solar, cellular, satellite, battery backup. So even when the grid's down, these can still put out the spoken word with crystal clear clarity for a very long time. Our Connect platform, which is our CGIS HIPAA FOIA compliant collaboration tool for different agencies to use, and what's nice is that this system allows, so when you have to bring in those multiple agencies in, there's no extra charge for that. Then our traffic AI. This is that near real-time data traffic modeling, allowing you to test out plans, create new plans, and just help yourself make better decisions. And then lastly, LRAD, which are our long-range acoustic devices. So these are going to be what police or fire is going to be using on their vehicles or carrying out to get information to crowds that might be in rural or disconnected areas. So, and with all that being said, the whole idea of what we do is our solution is designed to not only speed up the time it takes to manage an incident and get a notification out to the public, but also to make you feel comfortable with your decision. So really like that words up top, the hours to minutes, that was actually coined by a number of our customers that are currently using the system, and they've seen the speed, based on collaboration and pre-planning. If you'd like a personal demo or have any questions, please feel free to go to the website or click or scan the QR code to learn more. With that, I'll let Adam Fuchs take over for the demonstration.
All right, thank you, John. My name's Adam Fuchs. I'm going to be doing the demonstration today. I'm a solution engineer here at Genesis. And for the actual demonstration of the product, I'm going to turn my camera off so you don't have to focus so much on me and you can focus on the product today. So with that being said, I'm going to shut this off and we're going to get right into it. So what you're seeing on my screen here, this is one of the tools under the Genesis Protect umbrella of applications that we offer. And this one is evac. And what evac is used for is basically it becomes that common operating picture between all of the agencies involved in any sort of an event or incident that you're working on. And it is a zone-based evacuation pre-planning tool. And so the first thing that's going to jump out to you are the number of polygons that we have on the screen. And what those are the zones that we create using a custom in-house algorithm that looks at a whole bunch of different data sets, and we provide these zones to each of our customers. And that's very important when it comes to issuing evacuations, because now we can get more granular and we can evacuate people in specific orders. And not only is that going to help cut down on the amount of time it takes to get people out in an orderly fashion, but it's going to be safer, it's going to keep your roads more clear, and a number of different things. And so that is kind of the premise of the tool. Now I'm going to walk you through a lot of the details that this tool offers and show you how multiple agencies can leverage this common operating picture and these zones in order to work together in order to get people out of harm's way. So, we've been talking a lot about hurricanes and things like that. And so we know that most hurricane zones are very large, right? And so by setting up more granular zones within any specific area where we may be worried about, flooding or surging after a storm or things like that, then we can really start to make sure that we're not only notifying people that need to be notified first, but we're also evacuating people in the right order in order to, like I just said, get people out of harm's way as quickly and easily as possible. And so I'm going to walk you through a couple of different tools and show you exactly how they all work together and how all these different people can use all of these different tools to get people out of harm's way. So first things first, if there is an issue, we have maybe there's a hurricane on the horizon, we know that things are coming down the pipe. Well, first we're going to want to know, hey, if this is our impact area for the hurricane right along this road, well, how do we evacuate it? What is here? How, what's the safest and best way in order to take care of this situation? And so first thing we're going to do is if we click on any one of these zones in this area, it's going to provide us with a lot of really useful summary information. So if we have a feeling that all of these zones along this road are going to be impacted, we can start to click on these zones. And what's nice is we're going to provide some initial summary information. So we can see the daytime, nighttime population of this area. the daytime, nighttime vehicle counts, the number of acres, and the number of structures. And what's really nice about this information is we start to select multiple zones. That information is going to update automatically, right? We don't have to back up. We don't have to run a report. We can see it in real time as we select multiple zones, how that number changes, so we can get a really good idea of what the potential impact of an evacuation of any of this particular area would be. So if I'm in the fire department and I'm making an assessment about an evacuation and I say, hey, let's go ahead and let's let folks know that we want to evacuate, these 6 zones. Well, because our system is role-based as far as access is concerned, the fire department can make recommendations, and this tool also has a public-facing interface, which we call Genesis Protect, where folks can go to get information about any particular evacuation, as well as a mobile app, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So one nice thing about that is that you can have folks making recommendations about a particular evacuation without actually notifying or triggering a notification to go to the public. And so let's say the fire department recommends we put all 6 of these zones into some sort of an evacuation warning status because nothing is going out to the public. It doesn't necessarily need to be anything more than that. The only other thing that you're required to do is put in a reason. So we'll just say there's flooding imminent on the western slope moving southwest. And now the fire department has made a recommendation to everybody that is working on this incident together to let them know that, hey, this is what I think we should do, right? This is the highest impact area. We need to get these folks out of this area first. And so by issuing that notification, now if I'm an emergency management, or if I'm an emergency manager, or if I'm in law enforcement, the nice thing about this tool is that it becomes that common operating picture, right? And I mentioned that a couple of times where everybody's seeing the same information at the same time. So it really cuts down on the amount of back and forth communication to get everybody on the same page. Now everybody can just be inside of evac, looking at the zones, seeing the recommendations in real time. Now, in order to kind of prepare for this even further, we have a whole number of different tools that we have at our disposal in order to help us figure out what's exactly, what is it going to take in order to evacuate this area safely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on our critical evacuation facilities and our arrival points. So if we show all of these, this is going to let me know, what is in these areas, and I'll just show you a quick legend for the critical evacuation facilities, right? These are the things that we're identifying on the map. And then the green dots are these arrival points. And those are really helpful, right? Because if we are asking folks to leave their homes for an evacuation for whatever reason, we also need to let them know where they need to go. So in law enforcement, if I'm preparing to evacuate a particular location, I can see very quickly there's a number of hospitals and schools, childcare facilities, assisted living facilities, a number of things that are going to require boots on the ground, knocking on doors, letting folks know, like, hey, we have a flood imminent. You need to make sure that you're prepared and you can get out of here very quickly and safely. So at a high level, I'm working together, right, as an emergency manager with law enforcement. We've identified all of these different things. Now we want to make sure that we are setting up this evacuation in the right order, right? How do we evacuate these zones? If we evacuate everybody at the same time, we're going to have some massive traffic on the roads. It's going to take forever to get people out of these locations. And so one of the tools that we have under the Genesis Protect umbrella, right, one of our tools in our suite is something that's called Traffic AI. And what Traffic AI is it's actually at a high level, emergency managers, fire and law, they use traffic AI to actually model evacuation times and traffic conditions for any kind of what if scenarios. And it's specifically designed to be multi-hazard. So before we issue this information to the public, right, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Traffic AI so you can see what's the best and most efficient way to evacuate this area. Now, hopefully the first thing you'll notice is that all of those zones that we changed to an evacuation warning have also been updated inside of Traffic AI. So, meaning we don't have to export any information, import information, because these tools are all tied together. When we make changes in one tool, they're reflected in another tool, and it really helps cut down on the amount of back and forth. People can see very clearly what we're anticipating doing, and now we can take this information and we can run a simulation and figure out how long it's going to take to evacuate this area. So there's only 2 things that are required when you run a traffic simulation inside of Traffic AI. First, you need to define the impact area. So You can do that by just drawing a circle, setting up a polygon, a freehand polygon, or you can do a zone-based evacuation by selecting the zones that we see here. I've already configured all this, so we're not going to click through everything. The only other thing that's required is a waypoint. And what a waypoint is basically the point in which we will stop tracking vehicles. So let's just say, we select one or two of these zones that we want to evacuate. And then we just say, where are they supposed to go? Well, all we do is we just click on the map and say, this is where we want you to go. We want you to go in this direction. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be where people will go. It's just going to say, hey, once you've hit, point A on a map, you are out of harm's way, and we don't really care where you go from here. So there's a whole number of things that traffic AI can do. It's a very powerful tool. It allows you to, change current infrastructure, widen roads from 2 to 4, make things contraflow, update and increase population density and sizes for different areas to see how that impacts your traffic time. So it is a very, very powerful tool. Now, for this demonstration, I'm just going to show you how quickly it is to run a simulation, make a couple of changes, and then see how that impacts our evacuation time. So for the recommendation made, we're going to go over here, and we can see if we evacuate those zones, it's going to take, this is the number of addresses that were evacuated, 3,400 passenger cars, 1,100 heavy vehicles. But here's the part that we care about most, right? It's going to take 2 hours and 14 minutes to evacuate this area. Now, what we can do is we can modify this as many times as we would like and say, okay, well, this is with all those zones going at the same time. What if we had a phased evacuation sequence and we did the first couple of zones and then the next couple of zones after the fact? So I have an example of that here. We can see all the same information, right? Same number of addresses evacuated, same number of cars and heavy vehicles, but you'll notice that clearance time went down by over an hour. And that's simply by adding an additional waypoint and saying not everybody gets on the road at the same time. We're going to do 1 or 2 different zones at a time and walk through that. So very powerful tool. And while we're kind of working this incident with law enforcement, if we have somebody here that would take 5 minutes to run a simulation and figure that out, now we can make a better educated decision about which zones do we want to put in under an evacuation order and which ones do we want to put under evacuation warning. So based on that information, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, because we just saw in the simulation that if we evacuate these bottom 2 zones first and then do them at the zones after that, it's going to save us over an hour. Then we can come back in here as the emergency manager and say, all right, so 209 and 211, these are the ones that we want to put under evacuation order. The additional zones, those can wait. And now the other thing that we can do directly from here is, I mentioned where are people supposed to go. Well, we can click on any of these green dots on the map and say, hey, we can turn this toggle on, which is going to make these community visible, which just lets people know that, hey, this is a place where you can go to evacuate, or there's other information, right? That's a hydration station. There's also different areas where we have temporary evacuation points set up and things like that. So these are all going to be communicated to our community members once we make this information public. Now we can also manage traffic control points and things from here. So if we needed to set up any road closures, or if we needed to set up any traffic control points where we're going to have, folks at these different locations where they are, kind of guiding traffic and things like that. We even can turn on live traffic for any area, so you can see if you do have some different traffic control points set up or different evacuation routes in mind, you can look at the live traffic data and say, okay, yeah, if they were going to take evacuation route 1, that seems to be congested, let's go to plan B and have them take evacuation route 2. So now the same thing with our traffic control points or with our critical evacuation facilities and our arrival points. If we need to set up a road closure or, show people where our traffic control point is, we can just toggle these to on, so we know that, hey, people shouldn't be driving this direction, this road is closed, or hey, there's a traffic control point here in the center, just be aware of that so that when you get on the road, you know that there's going to be some officers in that area. So all of these things that you see on the map, you can make community visible, which just means when we go to the public facing side, folks are going to see that information. And then lastly, when we click on continue to review, it's going to just give us a brief summary, and it's also, we try to make it as obvious as possible. Hey, this is going to be community visible. You are updating the public site. We're putting 2 zones under evacuation order and 4 under warning. This is the reason why. We did identify those 6 arrival points and 5 traffic control points. And then once we press that red publish button, this information is going to go directly into our mass notification tool, which we'll get into in just a moment. It's going to go to Protect, which is the public-facing side, and the mobile app. We also integrate into a number of other tools like Waze, so if people are navigating through your community and they're using Waze to do so, if an evacuation order is issued, this application will pick that up in real time and automatically reroute them around that. We also integrate into things like Tablet Command and Intera and Watch Duty. And then if you are sending out a mass notification, because this will send a push notification just to a mobile app if people have that installed on their phones. But most of the time you're going to send out a larger, a more broad notification. And I'll show you that with our mass notification tool to people's, if it's a WIA notification, an email, phone call, text message, and you want to kind of guide people to this public facing side, we have a link right here we can copy to the clipboard and include that in our larger notification out to the general public. So everybody agrees this is the right way to go. We go ahead and publish this information, and now it's live on the public facing side. And so we'll hop over there so you can take a look and see what that looks like now. And again, right, this is just really important when it comes to communicating that information out to the public, because like we talked about in the slideshow a little bit earlier, when it comes to the Genesis Protect website and the mobile app, these evac users, they can decide to share that information on their map directly with the public. This is going to reduce the spread of misinformation. You start to become that trusted source for community members, where rather than them going to Facebook and to Nextdoor and all these other sites, now they're going to start coming directly to your site that you control the information, and they're going to know that, hey, that's a reliable source that we can go to during an emergency or while we're preparing for an event in order to get the information that we need. Now, this looks very similar to what we've been in most of the time. We can see all the information that we decided to make public. So we can see our evacuation zones, we can see our warning zones, that we can see our road closures, traffic control points, arrival points. And then if we are a constituent in this area and we're curious about what is going on, we can click on any one zone and it's going to provide some very useful information for our community members. So we can see that zone GRS E211 is under evacuation order. This is, West Main Street, East Main Street area, right? You can see the summary there. And then we've also said, hey, this is the reason why there is immediate threat to life, right? We want to get folks out of there as quickly as possible. A link to download the mobile app, not that it's necessary, but we always are encouraging people, and it just makes it, gives you that one more outlet that you can reach out to folks during a critical situation. Here are all the evacuation points that we identified, right? So we're telling people they can go to the Bible church, they can go over to Condon Park. We've also shown on a map where the traffic control point as well as these road closures are. And then one of the most important things that we always provide, especially to our community members, is going to be the zone information. And so typically early on, most people probably won't know their zone number, right? GRS-E246. But hopefully they will know they're north of, south of, east of, west of. And so we're always going to provide that information to community members as well as, what it's commonly known as or what it surrounds. And then the other thing that we can provide on this page is our links to third-party websites. So if you think they need information, right? So because we are over here in Grass Valley, information to the fire department or the police department or, the Nevada County dashboard, right? Whatever the case may be, if it's emergency preparedness and planning, you can set third-party links there to get people the information that you think they may need during an emergency situation. So now we've been working with law enforcement, fire, emergency management. We've pushed some information out to the public. We've notified them of, the way in which we want to evacuate these areas. We've used our traffic AI modeling tool in order to figure out the most efficient and safest way out of here. The last thing that we want to do is send out that either a WIA or mass notification to people's different devices to make sure that we are trying to communicate and saturate this area, right? Because there is, immediate threat to life according to our evac platform here. So we're going to jump over to what we call Alert. And this is our mass notification product. And you can see we did have a message already queued up for this. We do have what we call a quick launch. So you can have all of your, all of the notifications that you may want to templatize or you might use most frequently in an area where they're easy to get to and you can send them out very quickly. So for this one, it's going to be a county-wide notification. We just double click on that. And we have these concept of keywords so that we can automatically populate any information that's inside these curly brackets with the drop downs in our keywords. And so that's also, not only is it going to fill in this information that you see inside these curly brackets, but it's also going to automatically grab the group of people that's associated with whatever we select from these drop downs. So we're going to select Nevada County. That's where we've been doing the demo today. You'll notice when we come in here, we can see, the basic information about this notification, the urgency, the type, how long people can respond to it, how it's going to be delivered, so email, text, and voice. You can specify custom content for each of those different mediums or have it all the same. And then we can see our targets down here. So because we did select Nevada County in the dropdown, it grabbed the Nevada County demo group and put some folks in there. Now, if we wanted to send out a WIA, right, to that specific area, we can make any changes to this notification, right, on the fly. So if we wanted to find the alert area, you can come in here. It's going to take us right to that area so we can see those same zones that we saw in Traffic AI and in EVAC. You can see that, and we can do the same thing, right? We can draw a polygon freehand. We can set up a circle radius if we were like, say that we want to send out a WIA and we want to notify everybody within, a mile of this area. So right now we've got 2.3 miles, but maybe we say 1.5 miles. That's close right there. Or what we can do is we can say, hey, I want to select some different areas and we want to just notify the zones that we have selected, right? So we can start to select zones in the area, right? Once we're done with that, we can finish the selection. We can even click on zones and get that same EVAC information directly from here. So if I'm not so much, the emergency manager that's planning and working with other agencies before information goes out, but I'm just following along in our mass notification tool, like alert here, I could actually click on any of these different zones and I could see all of the information. So this zone on the outskirts here is still under a normal status, commonly known as north of, south of, east of, west of, all that good information. Once we've defined the area, we just hit save geometry, and that is going to recalculate our targets. And then once that is done, we can just go preview and launch, and we can actually send this notification out to all the folks that are in that group. And so one last thing here, are you sure you want to send this notification out? Yes, we are. Once we do that, the notification goes out and folks are notified. And I'll show you my screen here. And here you can see my phone ringing. I'm getting a phone call, text message, push notification, email. I can answer this call, I can respond to it. And that quickly, right, I'm able to define an area, send out a notification, make sure that all the right people are getting that information. So I believe that is it for the demo of the Genesis Protect suite of tools. I'll turn it back over to John for closing remarks. Thanks everybody for your time.
Thanks again for attending our webinar. If there's any questions or would you like any more information, you can go to genesis.com or again, use that QR code that was shared on the screen prior. Thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of your day.